Hello everyone, this is Kaylee from Nerdy Birdie Adventures, and I'm here today with another Ramble in the Brambles video, which is basically where I just sit down right here and yap at the camera basically. So I'm in a little bit of a different place today because I want to try different filming locations in my house, and this felt a little bit more casual, so yeah. So we're trying it in here today. You'll have to let me know what you think, but I'll probably stay in here anyway. But yeah, so in today's video I am going to be talking about my favorite video game series because RE9 just came out last week, so I felt like it was an appropriate time to yap about my favorite video games, or my favorite video game series to be specific. I have some of them here, and other ones I'll just talk about even though I don't have the physical games, if that makes sense. So these are in no particular order. It's literally either as I think of them or as I pick up the cases. So the first series is Bayonetta. This is Bayonetta 3, which is actually my least favorite of the series. Bayonetta basically follows the story of a witch who, in the first game, she's lost her memories. I don't think she has her complete memories through 1 and 2, but she definitely has. I think she has most of her memories back by 3. But she's lost her memories and she's seeking to kind of find out the truth of who she is. She possesses a power called the Eyes of the World, which is relevant in 1 and 2, but less relevant in 3. Which she inherited from like her mother and her father. She was basically... Okay, so there are two clans, the Lumen Sages, the Umbral Witches. Bayonetta is born of a sage and a witch, which is a forbidden thing, essentially. She was basically prophesized to bring an end to everything. I think my favorite game in the series is number 2. I like the story in number 2. I like the changes I like Bayonetta's design in number 2. I don't like Luca's design in number 2. I think my favorite design for Luca is number 1. Luca's basically her love interest. And then there's Jean, who is essentially her best friend. And then in number 3, it's there's a character called Violet. So I won't say too much about Violet because it's a spoiler, I guess, so I won't say too much about her. But yeah, there's Violet in the third one. As I said, the third one is my least favorite. Second one is my first favorite. I kind of adore Bayonetta because originally I think it was supposed to share a universe with Devil May Cry. There is concept art, I think, from the first game that shows Enzo playing cards against somebody who's off of the frame, but all of the accessories there are very clearly Dante's, and Enzo is mentioned in Devil May Cry 1, so I thought it was and they were created by the same person. Like, both games were created by the same creator, so I like that those two share a universe, or they were supposed to share a universe. It would have been really cool if they did actually still canonically share a universe. But there are lots of fun nods to Devil May Cry in Bayonetta. Okay, so the next series is the Batman Arkham series. This is Arkham Knight, which also happens to be my favorite of the 3 games, mostly because of the Arkham Knight, because I'm a Jason Todd fangirl, so naturally the game that has Jason in is going to be my favorite. But I do like all of the Arkham games. I do like all of the Arkham games. I think in order of it's Batman. Like, that's all I really have to say about Arkham. It's Batman. It's in the first one is set in Arkham Asylum, where he has to stop the Joker from basically mutating all of the inmates using an enhanced form of venom called Titan, which was developed by one of the doctors at Arkham Asylum, who was experimenting on Bane. The second one is Arkham City, where Hugo Strange basically turns half of Gotham into a prison city, and it's Batman figuring out, you know, why, and then having to put a stop to the Joker, and the Joker basically poisoning his blood or giving him a bad blood transfusion, which leads to blood poisoning. I don't think it has, never mind, but which leads into, and Hugo Strange is working with Ra's al Ghul to annihilate Gotham because Ra's just hates Gotham. He thinks it's a cesspool, so he wants to get rid of it. And then Arkham Knight the Arkham Knight trying to get revenge on Batman, while Scarecrow is basically trying to destroy Gotham, is trying to spread fear toxin everywhere because he wants to break Batman. He wants to destroy the symbol of hope that Batman is. That is my terrible rundown of the Arkham series. There is also Arkham Origins, which I think is in year 2 of Bruce being Batman, and it's when the Joker first appears in the Arkhamverse universe, and he basically hires a bunch of assassins to take out Batman. It has, I think, one of the best boss fights in the series with Deathstroke, and is the only one that doesn't have Mark Hamill as the Joker and Kevin Conroy as Batman. Origins, I was gonna say something about Origins. Oh, what was it? Oh, buggerance. Origins has the best DLC. I don't know if any of the other games have to. Yes, of course they do. You can play as Red Hood in one of them. Never mind. Origins has the best DLC with Mr. Freeze, because I think it's one of the best depictions of Mr. Freeze just in general. Don't be wrong, I like Mr. Freeze in Arkham City and Arkham Knight, but he has the best DLC. Like, Arkham Origins has the best DLC out of the Arkham games, as far as I'm concerned. I do like being able to play as like Nightwing and Red Hood and Batgirl and all that in Arkham Knight, but in terms of story and all that, Arkham Origins has the best DLC, which I've said about 4 times now, so I'll move on. Next is Devil May Cry. This is the HD collection for the PS4, which honestly at this point I'm waiting for them to release this for the PS5, because they've done it for everything else. They did a collection for the PS2, which the first 3 games were originally released on. They did it for the PS4, and then they did it for the PS3, they did it for the PS4. I'm waiting for them to do it for the PS5. But there are 5 games. Yeah, 5 games in this series. My favorites are a tie between 3 and 5. 4 is my least favorite because I don't care for the introduction of Nero. Like, take out the Nero half of 4 and I would absolutely adore 4 because Dante is perfect in it, but Nero just ruins 4 for me because he's such a poorly conceived character in number 4. He is much better in Devil May Cry 5. I will say this is probably my favorite video game series of all time. I could talk about Devil May Cry until the cows come home, and you never know, I might make a Ramble video about it someday, including like bizarre headcanons and stuff like that. But basically, long story short, half-human devil hunter hunts devils. While also trying to figure out why his brother's such an ass. That's basically the long and short of Devil May Cry as a series. And the friends he makes along the way, let's not forget that. But yeah, I absolutely adore the Devil May Cry series. I would recommend it to anyone. Up with Resident Evil, it's probably one of the best series of games that Capcom has ever made, so yeah. But yeah, I like 2 better than I like 4. That's my controversial opinion. I like Devil May Cry 2 better than I like Devil May Cry 4. And Devil May Cry 2 doesn't have a story. It's just Dante going from place to place to place to place while being very sulky and serious. Which is probably why nobody likes that game. So it's like, you set up Dante as this amazing, quick-witted character, and then you make him very serious in Devil May Cry 2, which thank God Devil May Cry 3 brought him back to where he was in 1. Or even worse, or better, depending upon how you view Dante's character, I guess. My favorite, like, random fact about Devil May Cry 1 is that it was built off, I think, one of the original design and builds for Resident Evil 4, like the original Resident Evil 4. So you can kind of see some aspect of shared things between those two games, which I think is really, really funny. And also because Resident Evil 4 was not released until Devil May Cry 3 was released, which is just wild to me. Can you imagine if Dante was a Resident Evil protagonist? Oh lord. But yeah, Devil May Cry. Devil May Cry I will recommend until the cows come home to pretty much anyone. Start with 3. I'd say start with 3 and then play 1 and then like 2, 4, and 5. I think 5 is last canonically. They always mess up what order these games go in, but I think 5 is the last one. Because I don't know, it's difficult to tell because 2 just throws things off, but yeah. So, next video game series is Darksiders. This is Darksiders 1. This is the War Mastered edition of Darksiders 1. So, Darksiders honestly was kind of a random one because this is a game that me and my brother randomly picked up from a Best Buy once for the PS3 because we saw an advert for it on TV, and the rest is history, as they say. It follows the adventures of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. We do have all 4 horsemen now, even though Strife is a little weird because Strife's main game, he really shares the spotlight with War. It's not a Strife exclusive story. You do get a lot of Strife's character in it, but it's not kind of exclusive to Strife. So there are 4 games in the Darksiders universe. Yes, 4. 1, 2, 3, and Genesis. So 1 is War, is following War, who gets basically accused of starting the apocalypse, and it's him trying to prove his innocence, and he just gets kind of tricked by everything. Funnily enough, the second game series that has Mark Hamill in it, that I've talked about, second is following Death. I think the first one is my favorite, but the second one is a close second, mostly because Michael Wingott, who is top dollar in the Crow movie with Brandon Lee, he's in another movie that I found out about recently, and I need to figure out what it is, but he voices Death, and he is so great. He's just, the voice acting for Death is so great in Darksiders 2 that just, I would sell the game on the voice acting alone. It's so good. But yeah, so it follows Death, who is trying to resurrect humanity after the botched apocalypse, and is trying to clear War's name at the same time. And then 3 follows Fury. So in the Darksiders universe, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are War, Death, Fury, and Strife, which doesn't make sense to me, like, but I suppose Pestilence and Famine is a little bit harder to visualize as a hack and slash, like, dungeon crawler, I guess. So yeah. But the third one is Fury, who is the only female member of the Horsemen, very angry, obviously, from her name. She kind of isn't really doing anything tied to War or Death. She's trying to hunt down the 7 deadly sins because they got released during the botched apocalypse, and she's just trying to collect them for the Charred Council, that's what they're called. Which is a group of demons who kind of try and foresee everything and try and control everything. And they're a bunch of goobs. But yeah. Yeah. And then 4 is, I think 3 is set before 2. I think 3 is kind of set between 1 and 2. They're all set after 1. They're all set after the events of 1. Or kind of during the events of 1. The timeline is a little bit messy with Darksiders. One day I'll probably sit and try and figure it out, but for right now, they all take place either after 1. I think they all take place during the time frame of 1, actually, because at the end of Darksiders 1, spoilers for a PS3 era game, by the way, War breaks the 7th seal and summons the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. So Death dies at the end of 2, so he gets resummoned, so it has to take place before the end of 1, and Fury is also there after she gets transported to another world. And then Strife just kind of wanders, oh no, he's in the end of 3, I guess, but it doesn't really explain where he goes after that. And then there's Genesis, which changes the style. That one's like a top-down shooter, which is really fun. It's a really fun game to play, even if it is a departure from the style. So it's kind of a it's kind of a during this, like, Darksiders doesn't have a true sequel. I think that's probably the most frustrating thing about Darksiders, is Darksiders we never got a true Darksiders 2. Like, all of them keep running towards the same place. I think technically Genesis is set before 1. I think Genesis is the closest we have to a prequel to it, because War's not under suspicion of causing the apocalypse. So I think technically Genesis is set before 1, but we don't have a true sequel to Darksiders, which is very sad. And then the studio went down, and I haven't heard if there is a Darksiders 4 or whatnot for a while. So yeah, Darksiders. Another one, like, say, if you enjoy Zelda or Devil May Cry, I would definitely recommend Darksiders. It is a pretty enjoyable game. It's pretty fun. Okay, next is BioShock. This is the collection for BioShock. I never played BioShock Infinite. I will be completely honest with that one. I don't care for BioShock Infinite. I'll watch people play through it, but I don't really care for it. That's my least favorite of the three. I don't have a favorite between 1 and 2, really, because I think they're both good in entirely different ways. But yeah, like, BioShock's a good game for a reason. People go City Under the Sea, if you don't know what BioShock's about. People in a ruined city under the sea after society under the sea collapses, because people will people, I guess. Andrew Ryan's great experiment failed, and he didn't want to admit it, essentially. Obviously the iconic line, "Would you rather?" and "A man chooses, a slave obeys." It's very, I don't know, it's poignant commentary on the illusion of choice in gaming, and I think that's what makes it so iconic. But it's also very fun to play. It's very fun to play. Which I suppose brings me to a question. Are you a Harvest the Little Sisters BioShock player, or are you a Spare the Little Sisters BioShock player? Because I think everyone will do one out of instinct and the other one out of, what makes this different if I'm only gonna do this to get the other endings. So which one are you? I'll admit I'm a Spare the Little Sisters, because honestly those kids have been through enough. I think they deserve they deserve to be spared. I realize that technically, I mean, I don't know, if you spare them, they get to go to the surface, so are you really condemning them too badly? Because you get to save them at the end anyway, so that's that. Alright, so the next one, so I'll get to the two big ones now, I guess. The two, like, big series is what I mean by that. Next is Resident Evil, which I mentioned Resident Evil 9, so you should have seen this one coming. This is Resident Evil 7. Yeah. Which game would I say is my favorite Resident Evil game? 4. the original 4, because there's just something about the one-liners in that game that just get me, that just absolutely send me. Also, the original Resident Evil 4 is where the Merchant was introduced, and the Merchant from Resident Evil 4 is so iconic that he just makes it my favorite game. Like, you could take out everything else, just leave the Merchant, and I would still love it just as much. Mostly because it is a moment when you first come up to him in Resident Evil 4, and he comes out from behind a building and just opens his trench coat at you. And it's just, okay, what's happening now? And then it's full of weapons and whatnot. It's like, okay, now I get what you're doing now. And it's just the fact that Leon doesn't really have a reaction to that makes it even better, because he reacts to everything else. I also do have a soft spot for 6, but 6 introduced Matt Mercer as the voice of Leon Kennedy, and I really miss Matt Mercer as the voice of Leon Kennedy. I don't hate who does his, I don't hate the guy who does his voice in the remakes, I don't, but I have a soft spot for Matt Mercer as Leon Kennedy. I just, there was just, six is a beautiful mess. 6 is a beautiful mess. Speaking of beautiful messes, another great entry in the Resident Evil series is Code Veronica X, because of Steve. If you know what I'm talking about Steve and why Steve makes that game so great, then you'll understand. I also do I like the remake of 2 as well. And 8. To be fair, all the games in Resident Evil are good. I also have a soft spot for 0, because 0 has my favourite character who was sent to the island of characters we will never see again, which is Billy Cohen, who's the secondary character, the secondary protagonist in Resident Evil 0. But yeah, I love Resident Evil. To sum Resident Evil up, evil corporations use viruses to do bad things. That's basically, and nobody really holds them accountable ever. Yeah, no, that says what it says, I guess. But yeah, like Resident Evil, I think everyone has like their favorite Resident Evil protagonist, and then you'll have to, if you play Resident Evil, you'll have to let me know in the comments who your favorite Resident Evil protagonist is. I think it's obvious that mine is Leon. Leon's my favorite, but to be fair, I was introduced to Resident Evil through Resident Evil 4 by my boyfriend at the time, so yeah. So Leon is my favorite, but I like all the protagonists, and especially Billy's number 2. Billy is protagonist number 2 because, again, he got sent to the island of video game protagonists that will never be seen again. He's there with like Sheva and Helena and Jake and Piers. To be fair, Piers died, but either way. Yeah, Resident Evil. I haven't played 9 yet, so, and I hope to at some point, but I'm glad that it's Leon in that game. I am glad though that just to say one more thing about Resident Evil, I am glad that Resident Evil 4, the remake, improved on Ashley's character and kind of improved on Luis Serra's as well, even if it made him a little bit more complicated than he originally was. Like, I think they kind of complicated his story a little bit, but I do like the expansion of his character in that game. Alright, and then the last series of like the games that I have in my hands before I go into kind of honorable mentions, I guess. No, I have one more series to talk about before honorable mentions, but Silent Hill. This is the remake of Silent Hill 2. I haven't played F yet. My favorite game in the Silent Hill series is probably a controversial pick because it's Silent Hill Downpour, which is the last one that was made before kind of the newer wave of the modern games like the remake and F and all that good stuff, which is about Murphy Pendleton. I have an entire Ramble video talking about that game, which I'll link somewhere. But yeah, I like all the Silent Hill games, like I do, they're all great, so. But Downpour holds a special place for me because it just had so much good potential with its story, and I just felt like the story didn't get the love and attention that it really deserved. But to be fair, I think Homecoming suffered the same problem in the sense that they have really good ideas for stories, but, you know, Konami got a Konami, so they're not great. They're not the best in terms of game quality, but there's so much potential there, and I just fell in love with the potential, I guess. And I just like Murphy as a protagonist because he reacts to things. Like, he reacts in like how I would expect a human being to react to things, and most of the other protagonists just don't. Henry being the worst, Henry from 4 being the worst, he just does not react to anything, and it's just, sir, are you okay? Are you okay in this game? him and James. I think James is also the worst in the original Silent Hill 2, at least. Like, James is kind of, you could make the argument that why he's like that makes sense based upon like why he's in Silent Hill, but the fact that the man is just so willing to stick his hands in holes and jump into holes and stick his hands down toilets is just indicative of what normal person would do this. What ordinary everyman person would just stick his hand into the toilet willy-nilly? Because you gotta remember, when you're playing through Silent Hill 2 the first time, James is an everyman. Like, you don't know what he did yet, so the fact that he is so willing, it might make sense in hindsight, but when you're playing through it the first time, if you don't know what's coming, it does not make it makes you question the man's sanity a little bit. It's like, James, why are you like this? But it does make him a super entertaining protagonist, so. And then the general gist of Silent Hill, I guess, is haunted town makes people face their worst nightmares or worst traumas or the most horrific things they've ever done in their lives. Yeah, that's Silent Hill in a nutshell. Barring F, I think. I've watched playthroughs of F, I haven't played it yet. It seems like a really cool game. I think just the gameplay aspects of it make me not want to play it because I feel like it would stress me out and I wouldn't enjoy it. There's a lot to keep track of, so would stress me out, I think. So yeah, that's that for Silent Hill. Yeah, for Silent Hill F. But I do enjoy watching like the stuff about the story. I think the story is really cool, especially from it taking place like outside of outside of the town of Silent Hill, which we've already had games not take place in Silent Hill. Because Homecoming doesn't take place for the majority in Silent Hill. Yes, it's directly connected to the town, but same thing with 4, even 3 to a certain extent, because where like the town is able to affect areas not in the town. Also Short Message, because that was set in Germany, but a lot of people just didn't play that, so it's I think the new one is set outside of Silent Hill 2. I think the new one is set in Scotland, which I'm really looking forward to. So yeah, that's gonna be fun when it comes out. But yeah, Silent Hill it's a classic for a reason. Again, Downpour's my favorite, but most of them, they're good if you can find them, like if you can get your hands on them, because obviously they're kind of rare these days. So I definitely do recommend Silent Hill 2 Remake though. Like, that's, to get access to Silent Hill 2, it's really good. Okay, the last series I have to, main series I have to talk about before I do some honorable mentions is Metal Gear Solid specifically, because Metal Gear is kind of its own thing. I think there are 2 Metal Gear games before Metal Gear Solid takes place, so yeah. But I'm going to very specifically talk about Metal Gear Solid, which I also got into because of my ex-boyfriend. He introduced me to Metal Gear Solid 2. So I got introduced to Sons of Liberty before I got introduced to Metal Gear Solid 1, and then I first played Metal Gear Solid 1 as Twin Snakes for the GameCube instead of the original PS1 version, which I really enjoy Twin Snakes. So I have played the PS1 version now, but I still have a soft spot for Twin Snakes because it's the first one I played. I also have a soft spot for 2, and I think 2 is one of the most derisive ones, just because of the introduction to Raiden and the bait and switch that happens at the beginning. Oh, good times. Good times with that good old Metal Gear Solid bait and switch. If I had to pick a favorite Metal Gear Solid game, it would be probably a toss-up between 2, Sons of Liberty, and Snake Eater, which is number 3. Because Snake Eater just is I don't know, it's so good. It has so much personality. It definitely has the best bosses the Cobra unit. Like the Fear, the Sorrow, the End, Pain, and the Fury. I think there are 5 of them. I now have to go through them because my brain has to finish the cycle. The Sorrow is the psychic whose ghost you fight. The Fury is the flamethrower astronaut man. The Pain is the bee man, is the man with the bees. The End is the old guy. Oh, who's the one who goes up in the tree? Oh, buggerance. There's a guy who goes up in the tree. You have to use infrared to fight him. Bah. I can't remember what he's called. Somebody will have to tell me. Somebody will have to tell me, or I'll put it up on the screen what his name is, what his code name is, because I don't remember. I've probably already said it too, and now I can't remember what it was. Oh, bugger. Oh well. But yeah, so they're all under the boss, obviously, who's before Big Boss, before Naked Snake becomes Big Boss. She's the greatest soldier ever known in the US military, even though she dies a traitor, and she's not. Metal Gear Solid 3 is where it gets really confusing, which is a big thing to say after the ending of 2, but 3 is where it becomes really confusing, because it's, is she a traitor, or isn't she a traitor, or is she a traitor to not be a traitor? It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. 3 also introduces Baby Ocelot, who has such an attitude problem. Baby Ocelot, Baby Revolver Ocelot is one of my favorite characters in the entire Metal Gear Solid series, because he has such an attitude problem. He's just such a, oh, he's so good. Like, he is so good. Also, my favorite character from really Metal Gear Solid 3 is Volgin. Don't know why. I don't know why I find myself so fascinated with that man. The sadist electricity man. I don't know why I find him so fascinating, but I do. He's my he's my favorite character from that game. But yeah, no, there's so many good things to say about Metal Gear Solid, the series. And then there's 4, which kind of, I think, lost a lot of people, because it was just, what's happening here? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing Foxhound again? And then I have never played 5. I've seen playthroughs of 5, but I've never actually played 5, because I want to hear Snake talk. And when you're paying Kiefer Sutherland, it's because I was just talking about Silent Hill. If you're paying him by the word, then I don't get sassy man Snake. So I realize that technically, yes, in 5 it's not sassy man Snake, because it's somebody else the entire time. It's not actually Big Boss, but that's neither here nor there. The monologue from the end of 2 is still probably one of the most poignant video game moments, especially nowadays. Like, Kojima may have his moments, but weird, of all the things he predicted that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. Like, you can find what I'm talking about. I don't really want to get into that particular debate in this video, because I've rambled on long enough. But I'm going to go into very quickly, I'm going to go into my honorable mentions. I like the Final Fantasy series. Favorite games would probably be 7 Remake, 8 and 15. I have a thing for Cypher and Squall's relationship from 8, because of course I do. Which, it's Final Fantasy. Like, what else do you want me to say? I realize my favorites are kind of basic, but I don't care. favorite Pokemon game, because I feel like most people have a favorite Pokemon game, is Silver, followed very closely by Yellow, followed very closely by Sword and Shield. So I didn't play Pokemon between Silver and Sword and Shield because I just lost interest. And I mean the original Silver, not Soul Silver, I mean the original Silver. But Piers got me interested in Sword and Shield, and then I haven't played since Sword and Shield. So yeah, so that's why Pokemon's an honorable mention. The Professor Layton series is an honorable mention. I love those games. They're just fun puzzle solving games. Like, they're great. They have cute stories too. They have pretty cute stories. There's another one that just came into my head. Animal Crossing is an honorable mention because I haven't played most of the Animal Crossing games. I've only played New Leaf and New Horizons, but I love both New Leaf and New Horizons, so I'll mention them. And then everything else isn't actually a video game series, it's individual games, so I will save those for another time. But yeah, that is me yapping for I think 30 minutes about my favorite video game series. Let me know what your favorite video game series are in the comments below. If you enjoy the same series that I enjoy, let me know your favorite characters or your favorite games in those series. I'd love to know. I always love to know who's people's favorites. I think my next rambling video is going to be talking about my video game guilty pleasures, which is basically games that aren't really well liked for the most part, which I'm gonna find people who hopefully also like them as much as I do, but yeah. So I'm looking forward to making that video because yapping about those kind of things is pretty fun. But yeah, so if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and become a nerdy birdie, where you can listen to me yap about random nerdy topics, or you can watch my vlogs, or I do journal videos. I do a little bit of everything, not everything, but a little bit of most things. But yeah, until next time, stay nerdy, my friends. Bye.